Okay, so with this evening, let us discuss a little bit about project contracting. Project contracting. As we know, when you are undertaking projects related to force account, you are engaging yourself with a different contracting process. And this contracting process might involve you to engage with the local fundies, to engage with the local contractors, and so on. While contracting, you are expecting to finish this work depending on the situation that you are looking around the project and the force account. Decision to go and decide to engage into contracting is sometimes you may find the cost of making supervision regarding the project by yourself. It might be complicated in terms of management and cost. So because the aim for running force account project is most of the time we're looking at minimization of the cost while maintaining the best quality of work. And that is the focus of force account project. And therefore, we may find ourselves piece of work, you need to contract it out to let it be done by local fundies, let it be sold it out, but you have to engage into contracting. And well, again, it depends with what type of activities you are engaging. So in this session today, we shall be discussing project contracting in relation to general theories on how we view this one. But what I will be covering in this area, I will be covering about policy issues within the context of project contracting. And I'll also be talking about planning what type of contract you need to engage in once you find yourself executing or before executing the project, which strategy you will have to apply. There are dilemma to which manager you may find yourself having it, and therefore which strategy, which how to select selection criteria, and its administration, including the bidding. These will be the key issues that we find ourselves we shall be talking for today. And when you are looking at project, most of the time you will realize your focus is cost minimization. Now, with the cost minimization, what you'll be doing, you have to look at your project. You have to look at which process you will have to contract it out. Now, most of the time we say you should work under formalized contract management policy that must define what and why, when, and how work should be contracted. So this definition must be formalized in your institution. You know which policy will guide you in terms of contracting. You might be looking for type of equipment. Those equipments, it might be excavator. It might be any type of machines. You see, all these machines require you to set out details of contract. And you see, with the focus in terms of what type of work that is going to be carried out, and you specify the work. So that is the key objectives and policy. You need to have policy guidelines that will define the nature of work. You see, if you are about to hire a compactor, you see, you should know the definition, what type of work with the compactor that you are going to use at the end of the day. So as I said, even the excavator, you're about to hire this excavator, define the work specifically. Generally, you will have to define the equipment, you see, define the services in details, and this must be included, must be defined when and how the work should be contracted out. What are the policy guidelines that you have in your organization that will guide you when you are setting out the policies maybe you're about to engage. So under normal circumstance, when you are engaging with the contractors, you should give them enough time and make sure that they're independent and make sure that they're self-sufficient and they are capable of doing the work, you see, and the contracting policy may include qualifications of the engineers, qualifications of individuals performing the work. You see, the quality must be defined, and the price itself must be defined. And also the situation in which you are making negotiations with the contractors. You see, how are you doing that one? How do you arrange for maybe you are trying to organize competitive tendering process? How are you going to do that one? So, and how are you going to accept the best tendering process? And what type of contracts is being preferred for you when carrying out? So what you will see, all these are the policies that must be defined when you are setting out the contract. So contract procedures, what we say right here, must exist. It must exist, and it must outline the objectives and the scope of contract policy itself, and the details how it is to be applied. It must be there within your management. Therefore, management must be capable of having this policy that will guide the process of contracting it out. So each piece of work that you find you are outsourcing, you're about to give local fundis, you're about to hire the machines, you are engaging with someone maybe to excavate the foundation and so on. So if you are setting that out, if you are engaging into contract, the piece of work that you find you will not manage by yourself, make sure you have a defined policy from your organization that will clearly provide the scope of contract itself. So, and there must be management policies that will guide on the conduct of contracts. The code of conduct for contract that will make sure that it is free for everybody. And with this freedom, it means staff should not interfere the contractor, and they should not get anything in exchange once a contract is given out. So staff and the contractor should be separated to avoid the conflict of interest. And there must be some procedures to say it is wrong for you to get bribe from contractor, so that you should undermine the quality. These are things that we find are very important when you are looking at policy issues related to contracting. So with this one, what we say, it can work in any type of project, and it might be in a project related to private sector engagement or the public sector, but since the focus is the public sector, so that's what we define. So most of us, most of you guys, you have defined rules on how the contract is supposed to be given, and how do you prepare for competitive tendering process. You have those guidelines, and you have good professional who can define how to carry out a competitive tendering process. But what we say right here, the policy, each organization must have policy that guide. You must have plans. You must have plans. So you need to plan what type of contract. You see, in here, you will be looking at different attention to scope of work, and what type of contract are you going to offer, and how many contract you will give to local fundies, or maybe by the time when you hire the machines and so on and so on and so on. All this, it will involve you to plan. And therefore, we say right here, attention must be given to the type and the number of contract, selection of contractors, and methods of contract operation. These are things that we find are very important when a manager is about to manage any type of project. So you need to plan what type of contract, at which stage you can issue your contract, when are you going, and the selection of contractors, how are you going to select contractors, what type of methods of contract operations, so, and how do you monitor, so how you will monitor. So you need to plan this in advance. You need to plan this in advance so that it will help you to know the roadmap. So we say in here, you need to make a choice, meaning that more contract means more design risk interface and a greater degree of project manager involvement. So if you have many contracts, it will lead you to engage yourself into so many activities to start managing those contracts. Fewer contracts, of course, you should know, reduce project manager involvement, but can also increase exposure to other risks. So those are the planning. If you have so many contracts, you have also disadvantage. And if you have fewer, you have also some risks that will be incurred during the project time. So even though it is good, but it will involve you to have some other risks that you'll be exposed for. So you need to take a balance, but you need to plan. And what we say right here, the best principles, which principle you will use when you are planning or determining the number of contracts. And here we say contract must be of manageable size, and it will consist of elements that the contractor can control. So which elements that the contractor can control. Contract size should be within the capacity of sufficient contractor to enable competitive tendering. This is the most important thing that you need to take into account. And also, When you are planning, you need also to consider the time constraints that may necessitate multiple separate contract when implementing the project. We understand that different industries, in terms of strategies, they use different types of contract to achieve different results. And they may not be the same. For example, you look at chemical industry, you see chemical, maybe any type of petroleum construction or plant, electricity plant construction, or maybe it is about school construction or building construction. It might not be the same, but so you need to know the strategy. So you will use different strategy to achieve the same results. What we say here, the activity or work-based contract used in building and construction industry is totally different to the results-based contract used in equipment process. For example, when it comes to oil and service industries, they're different. They're different. They're not the same, and their applications will not be the same. So you need to know which strategy. You see which strategy you think you can apply when managing the project. So during strategy, what are the factors affecting project contracting strategy? What are the factors affecting project contracting strategy? One that you need to look at is responsibilities of the parties needs determining. What are the responsibilities? What are the responsibility of the partner? What are the responsibility of contractor? What are the responsibility of the implementing organization? So these are things that you need to draw within the contracting strategy. Responsibilities of the parties needs determining very early at the beginning. So, and also point number 2, remember, risk must be allocated between the parties. And so you must be clever in terms of developing the strategy, but you should understand you must, while you are doing it, but this risk must be allocated between the parties. And another point is the payment mode. You see, the payment basis must be decided. This is how are you going to pay? When are you going to pay at the initial stage, or you're going to pay at final stage? This needs to be decided early. There should be adequate incentive for the contractor to perform efficiently. So you must try to avoid some bureaucracy that are involved when you are dealing with contractors. So make sure you provide incentive for the contractor to perform efficiently, so that they can finish the job in time. Another point that you should also consider is because, you know, when you are contracting it out, you have transferred the risk from your side to the other implementing agency. So the point that you need to consider here is the need for flexibility, to give enough time in terms of making changes that you think will be happening. So these are factors that may affect project contracting strategy. So it is important you know this one. So another strategy that you may find yourself engaging with is to look at whether you pay a lump sum contract or you use the so-called a cost reimbursable plus. With a lump sum contract, minimize the cost or the price risks carried by the project contractor, of which you find at the end of the day, once you give lump sum, it means it minimizes risk from your side when it comes to changes in prices and others. So who bear the risk once you pay the lump sum is the contractor. But when you use this one, how do you decide? So that's a strategy question for you. So if you pay in terms of a lump sum, you should be knowing why are you paying it. There are risks being involved. There are risks being involved on it in a project. So you can apply another strategy that is a cost reimbursable plus. This is, you find yourself, you reimburse the cost. You reimburse the cost. And now this one might be very expensive. It might be very expensive. And it may take some time. So with this one, it may give you the best quality. But with the lump sum, you offer now, if it is 1 billion, you agree to pay 1 billion right now, and you will pay it. Remember, price might change, and the contractor may compromise the quality depending on the agreement that you formulated at the initial agreement. So with this one, may affect the quality of work, but this is not all, but it's up to you. It's up to you to decide. So there's no single formula to say this one is good or the other one is bad. So you may decide to use a strategy for lump sum. You just transfer the risk to the contractor, or you may use a cost reimbursable plus, depending on how you agree. You'll be able to reimburse the cost, depending with the time factor that you think. Now, you as a manager, you need to advise what type, which strategy the organization can use in order to attain the same goals. And this is very important to project manager. So we have talked about the strategy. The strategy, there's no single formula. It's the capability for you to predict what is happening. When it's selection, when it's selecting types of contracts, you may find yourself using the price-based contract, or you can use quantities, rates, and the reimbursable contract. With this one, you price-based, you can find yourself imposing, you get into a contract, you impose discipline on the contractor by requiring specifications of price and fix the time scale to be met. So this is a price-based contract. You agree now to perform the activity. So if you agree right now to perform the activities, you must agree specifically to specify, to provide the specification and the price and fixed time that when you think you'll be able to complete the project. So any failure to comply at the end of the day must be penalized by the terms of contract. So the project manager must be careful while administering this type of contract. You may select quantities, rates, and reimbursable contracts. With this one, it means it imposes a far less discipline on the contractors. So at the end of the day, what you need to consider is that any cost discipline must be imposed by the project manager in the form of targets, cost arrangements, details in terms of monitoring and evaluation, controlling the project itself. So you will have to engage much, and they will have to, the contractor will perform a certain piece of work, then you reimburse the cost based on those activities that has been performed at the end of the day. So these are reimbursable contract. So which one do you want between the two? It's up to you, project manager, to say you will use which one. So with price-based contract, it gives the contractor an incentive to carefully plan and organize the contract. This is very important for someone who is engaging into project while contracting it out. You should know what will be happening. So in here, with the quantities, rates, and reimbursable contract, gives the contractor no incentive to under design or supply, but the opposite of what we have already said. You should understand, the more work done, the greater the profit, and you should, in here, you need, your involvement is much more needed. So the selection between the two will depend with the type of contract or project that you are engaging with. When you are selecting, there are some contracts that will bind you in terms of time. You should consider the time, the work plan, you see, and the price, you see, all these things that you need to consider when you are talking about contracting selection, contract selection. And you may prefer any, depending on the strategy that you're about to use. When it comes to administration, this means it's about how do we administer contract in a project. This is the process. This is the process of ensuring that the seller or performance meets contractual requirements. So there must be some legal forms. You must be making follow-up to see what is happening. You need to check for any legal requirements and make sure the work is performed properly, and what are the legal implications that you have agreed. At the end of the day, once the target is not achieved, so someone must be answerable. This is part of administration. This means what will be the role of management in the process to the contractual relationships. So these are things that you will need to make follow-up depending on the policies that you have in your organization. What are the project management process that will be applied? Of course, you will have the project plan execution, and these are things that you'll find yourself having: the performance reports and cost analysis, scheduling, the quality control, the change control, payments terms must be defined clearly, say, and so on and so on. So a manager must be capable of managing it, everything that is related to the terms of the contract. Now, let me stop for this for today until we meet again next time. Thank you.